Okay, so something a bit different today. I thought I'd do some fiberglass work. I've got to work underneath this sill under here because I've got to extend it down. So basically it's got to come down from this section down to the section under there, basically to curve it round. I've forgotten, to be honest, that I had to do that. I did it on the other side and completely forgot about this one. So I thought I'd show you how to do some fiberglass in. I've done this before, but I thought I'd give you a bit of a once over what's what. So the general gist is, you need some matting. I haven't got a huge amount, but it'll be enough for now to show you what's what. Need something to mix the resin in. Some decent gloves. In fact, I'll put them on now, because I'm going to need to do this first. Mix the resin with the activator, or the hardener, whatever you want to call it. You're supposed to really kind of measure that out in a cup, that sort of thing, but to be honest, I don't bother. I've done that much of this now, it doesn't really make any difference, to be honest, what sort of stuff you do here. But you can gauge it once you've done so many of these things. Need a decent brush as well, a decent sized brush to put it on with, and obviously the resin itself. I don't know how much of this you can see, I don't know how far the camera goes back exactly, but hopefully it's a half decent video and you can see what's what. I've got to save a bit of this. I'm nearly out of resin actually, I need to get some more, but I'm going to be saving a bit of this for the tailgate as well, for the boot shuts. But you put some resin in there. Ooh, when it comes out, it's really not got much in here actually. Nope. Ignore that, dust galore. There's hardly anything in here at all. I really need to get some of this stuff. So I'll put some of that in there. I've got another small one of these. It doesn't get very far. It's one I got from Alfred's or somewhere years ago. But oh god, that literally is it. No, it's alright, it's coming out now. Just takes a while to come back down to the bottom of the drum. I'm not going to put too much in at a time because it's going to be a little bit of slow progress on this. Okay. Right. So I've got a small amount of resin in there, not a huge amount at all, as I say. So basically it just means a tiny bit of activator that will cover it. Put that over there. Give that a good stir. That's basically all you need to do. Just that little bit to get it activated around the place. Now then it sets, or goes off, should we say, pretty quickly. So you have to be a bit fast with this sort of stuff. I've literally just got to get this to adhere to the sill, which is already a decent sort of stuff already. It's basically fiberglass and filler, so it doesn't really matter. If it's trying to do this to metal, it's tricky, or plastics, they don't really stick and end up getting cracks and stuff, but this will be fine. And obviously onto wood, which is fine anyway. It's just a piece of wood at the bottom there, just to get a rough idea of shape. So this one's going to put a bit on. You can do this different. You can put the matting on first and then put the resin on afterwards if you wanted to, really. You can do it that way around. Sometimes you actually use less resin that way, but I like to have it relatively wet on there. Just going to move these out of the way a second, because otherwise these are going to get wet, and as soon as they get wet and dry out, they're no good. So I'll put those over there, use them as and when I need them. Okay, this section in there. So you literally just paste it on. If you go too thick or too much all in one go, you'll find that it starts to fall off, which you don't really like that, basically, if it's too wet. So you don't want to put loads and loads of layers on at one go. You want to basically make sure they've dried out properly before you do that, and go from there. This one here, as long as I can get it stuck to this, which is not the easiest thing in the world, it's just to build up a base, pretty much. I'll work the base afterwards. Need a bit more resin on here. Let's dry that a little bit. Okay. Let's see how that's now going in there, shaping into place. Okay. Not bad. I mean, this has literally just got to go a dip, like a curve down there, basically. It's not got to go right underneath here or anything like that. You won't see any of this underneath because the sill extension will be on. But as long as this holds, It'll be fine. We'll get right underneath there so it's got something to adhere to. Okay, get it nice and smooth along the top, best we can. First piece on. Okay. Right then. Second piece on. I'm going to go further along, so not actually attaching it to that as such, that first piece, mainly because I've got a feeling it would actually come off because I'm doing it upside down. If you're doing an actual mould or something similar, you wouldn't have that problem because it's got something to stick to and it's not upside down or that sort of thing, so that's always worse. So that's easier, but on this one we're sort of working the wrong way up, if that makes sense. To be honest, it starts sticking after a few minutes. It's not quite when it's just out of the can, so to speak. It's takes a bit of time to get adhering to this. So there we go, there's a bit more in there. That should stick pretty well as well. You see the gaps in between, I'll do that another time because obviously, as I say, it's going to get too heavy otherwise. And you've got to get it something to stick to. Okay, see how that section, hopefully the video picks this up. See the section there where it's going to be? All this sort of stuff at the top can be sanded back later on when it's all done. It takes about 24 hours roughly to dry properly. You can work on it from about, I don't know, 2-3 hours probably without having to get a heat on it and that sort of stuff, which I don't tend to do. I tend to let it air dry. Okay, probably shouldn't have touched that actually, but there you go. Okay, that'll do. Right, that is in. Here we are. Next section. Hoping you can still see this. In fact, I'll do the, which end should I do? I'll do this end. I don't know which end you can see. Hopefully this one. You can see why you need gloves, because it's like mega sticky stuff, this thing, and it's a nightmare to get off. You need like thinners and that sort of stuff to get it off. It's an absolute nightmare. But luckily I've got decent gloves, just some random sort of marigold things, but they'll do the job. Just during Corona and all that, gloves went through the roof for price. I had to work with what I've got, so I went with these, and they're actually pretty good for this sort of job. This one's dried out a bit already. Try and get that in there, sticking. That side's fine. That side's fine as well. I've stuck it to that side, that's fine. Try and wrap it around without coming off. You know you want to. Doesn't matter if it hangs off the bottom there, that's fine, I can trim that later. As long as it's got the right sort of shape, which this one's slightly too far out currently. So I'll put that in a bit. Also makes it adhere better as well. Okay, not bad. Okay, so you can see the shape come along nicely outside there now. Obviously we'll need filler work and everything else on top of this, and probably another layer of fiberglass at some point too. That doesn't matter, that's fine. As I say, if you put too much on all in one hit, it'll be a nightmare, literally. You really don't want that. It's a bit of a fine art, this thing. It's a lot of people do it, well, everyone does it different, to be fair. Some people do it like this, some people do it in moulds or all sorts of ways really. So some people paste it on the car afterwards. I tend to just paste the actual stuff. That one coming off already at the end there. Looks like it, doesn't it? I haven't actually got some of that wet enough, to be honest, but let's see how it goes. That might be the problem there. I never like doing fiberglass in upside down. It's a nightmare. Let's see what I can do here. I don't want it to fall off. the same time, I don't want it to look daft either. That piece is a nightmare, this one. Not sticking very well at all. Right, I'll do it slightly different. Just feather it in. If it sticks there, I can worry about the after trimming another time. Once it's got a base to work with, that's the main thing for now. Come on, stick. Come on, it's a nightmare, bloody stuff. I've got enough on here for a start. I'll take this piece off actually, briefly. This piece is fine. I'll redo that section. Sometimes that does happen. Okay, that piece is fine in there. This section I'm going to split and redo a little bit. So don't want to waste the material, because it's not the cheapest stuff in the world. I mean, it's not expensive either. People think it is expensive, but it's actually, if you buy it from the right places, you try to get it from like a supplier in Aston, Birmingham, it's relatively cheap really. I mean, the resin, 25 litre I think it is, or 20 litre tub of resin could last me, depending on how much I do, 3 to 6 months, maybe less, maybe more. I've had this one quite a while. So I've changed the tactic a bit here. Okay. That'll do. Just to get a base working on. I'll do this section up here as well. Just in case it's this end you can see best. I don't know. I don't want to overlap too much, otherwise I'll end up dragging the other piece off, and you really don't want to be doing that. Sorry if my head's in the way here. Okay. So it's already starting to go off there. I'm just positioning it slightly. So there is a bit of skill to this. To be honest, this isn't the best fiberglass I've ever done in my life. Nowhere near it, in fact. But as I say, going upside down, not easy. Not ideal at all. Normal fiberglass in like a wing or something like that is pretty pretty straightforward compared to this. Okay, that's giving it a bit of something to stick to. Don't want it sticking out too far either. It's going to be that kind of level basically, so it's going to go round there, down to that level. So anything above that, which none of this is at the moment, it will stick out. So you don't want any sticking out. You don't want to be taking material out. You want to be, if anything, putting fur in. Got this section at the end here, needs to really be dragged in a bit. That's better. That's better. Okay, that's that done. Any more left? Might get another piece out of this if I'm lucky. Do a small piece just in case there's not much resin left in here. I'll grab some resin some point soon. Okay, just enough on that to get a piece there. Which normally you'd then put a piece over here and fill the gaps and things like that, but I can't till it's dried out because it's just going to be it's going to be too wet to do it. And it'll just drag it off, which is no good for anybody, basically. So this section here, that's pretty good already. Okay. This one's going to be a little bit trickier because it started to go off, so it doesn't take long to go off this stuff. Might as well put some of this down in here. Don't need it up there. That can go as a nice base to stick to as well. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people saying, what are you doing? This looks completely wrong, or whatever else. And to be fair, it probably is. If I was doing this professionally, it's probably not ideal. This probably isn't ideal at all, actually. I wonder if I can get another piece out of this. Let's see. Even if I get it relatively sticky, even if it doesn't get completely covered. No, it's not bad. Not bad. Because this is the base layer as well, so it doesn't have to be fully sorted yet. This is right, actually. Live with that. There's enough on there to make it stick, I hope. Let's see. Okay. Yep. We're all good. Famous last words. You can't manipulate it too much once it started to go off, because it just starts peeling, or you can't do anything with it anyway. It just starts getting a bit dodgy. This piece has gone a bit like that now, actually. So I'm going to try and not mess about with it too much. At the same time, it's got to be relatively level. Okay. Section here, ease it in. That's good. That's good. This one doesn't. It does now. Okay. This is the sort of stuff you just trim off at the end. Normally I'd use that, but it's gone off that much now. I can't reuse that really. It's not ideal. Just won't stick to anything. Yeah, it's no good that. Leave that as it is. But you can see how it builds up. So you've got all this section here now along there. Doesn't take long. What this just took, what, I don't know, 20 minutes or something, 15 minutes. Obviously needs to go all the way along the edge of the sill, and then when this is done, I'm going to have to do a second layer along the same way. I'll cut it all back first so it looks normalish. So I'll trim all this back underneath, cut it, do the second layer basically along the top of this, and then you can start doing some flattening back, filling, that sort of stuff. So there we are, fiberglass in. That's your guide to it, to a certain level. Probably not the best guide in the world to be starting with. If you're thinking about doing some kits and stuff, or anything like that really, then obviously this is relatively easy to do. Just takes a bit of practice, a bit of vision really. So yeah, all good fun. Okay, there you go. I'm going to ditch my gloves and let me know what you think of the video. Comment, tell me where I'm going wrong, but you know, it's one of them. And then subscribe if you can again, and I'll do another video as and when I can with other interesting stuff.